Welcome to Mommy Needs a Break. It is a podcast for moms who don't have it together because guess what? We don't have it together and that's okay. I'm one of your hosts, Megan Thomas at Meg Scoop Everywhere.
And I am Marisa Johnson and she is Marisa J. Make sure to follow Mommy Needs a Break on all platforms at MNEB Podcast and check out our website for updates and all the great stuff that's happening with us at mnebpodcast.com. And Megan, what do we got going on today?
We have a great show today, actually. Very interesting. We're going to be talking about bipolar disorder, mental health, being a mom, how that works together. And our guest, she's fabulous. She's a wife. She's a mom. She's a writer and she's a mental health advocate. Y'all give it up for Karla Houston.
Thank you.
I'm loving the hat.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, girl. I'm over here. I barely made it. Okay. I barely changed my clothes to come. So thank you.
Trying to keep it safe and cute.
Look at you. Fabulous. So you have a 1-year-old daughter?
Yeah, 15 months.
What's
Almost.
her name?
Aria.
Ooh, is it A-R-I-A?
A-R-I-A.
Okay, I have
Yes.
A-R-Y.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's very Game of Thrones.
Yeah, so that's where
spelling.
it came from.
Right.
I let my husband name the second baby, and he didn't tell me until maybe like the day before we had her what her name was going to be, and it was Aria.
Yeah.
And he kept saying, I was like, what's her name going to be? And he kept saying, the girl has no name. And I just thought he was just, he's like, I've been telling you what her name was,
Right.
but I just thought he was
Yeah.
whatever.
I remember you said that and I was like, oh, Aria? And you were just like, I mean, I don't know. And I was like, no, that's what he's saying. It's Aria. Remember, I kept saying, I was like, it's
Like, it's right
Aria.
there.
It's Aria. The girl has no name.
And
That's
I'm
what
like,
they said.
no, I think he's just like, I don't have a name yet. And
No.
it wasn't clicking in my head. Game of Thrones was our show. So,
Yeah, my husband likes that show.
yeah. that
I'm
was
like
our
a Pretty
show.
Little Liars fan, but there's an
Ooh.
Aria on
Yeah,
that show
oh yeah,
too.
Pretty Little
So
Liars.
it worked
Yeah.
out.
Is that show still on? I feel like
It
every
just
time,
went off like a couple
See,
years ago.
every time
And I was
would,
like, that's my
go
daughter's
back on,
name.
I'm like, damn, there's like 3 more seasons.
It is,
Damn,
yeah.
There's
3
so
more
many
seasons.
seasons.
It's
of
been
that
on
show.
forever.
A, was that the A? The secret
Right.
person?
A. I'm like,
Yeah.
I have to do an A
Right,
name. I just
right.
love that.
Yeah.
See, love it.
Hilarious.
Love it, love it. Okay, let's get into our first segment of the day. It's Ain't No Shame, where we share our shameful moments, but don't shame each other for it. So today is my Ain't No Shame. And my Ain't No Shame is there ain't no shame in letting your kids go commando. And by that, I mean wearing clothes with no underwear.
Wait,
Oh.
wearing clothes with no underwear.
Wearing clothes with no underwear. Because, okay, so
I mean, I do that, so I can't even be.
You a commando? Girl, I be feeling like everybody can tell. Like, you ain't got no underwear
I hate underwear.
Really?
Unless I'm on my period.
I
Other
like
than that,
underwear. I like showing my little granny panty line, okay?
No, absolutely not.
I don't have a shame. And if you notice it, stop looking at my butt.
Right.
That's how I feel, right? So my son, Maverick, goes to swim class like twice a week. And it's getting colder now. So it's like, usually I would just let him keep his like swim clothes on. We just like go home because we live literally 5 minutes from the little swim center. But because it's colder now, I change him out of his swim clothes back into like his regular clothes.
Right.
Yeah.
So the last time I did it, well, actually the first time I did it, I forgot to bring him underwear because I had on his swim clothes underneath it. I just thought like, boom, put your swim clothes on. I'm gonna put your regular clothes on. We get in there, boom,
Get
boom.
out.
You're easy to push in the water, right?
Mhm.
So then we get out of the water and I'm changing him and I'm like, you ain't got no underwear on. You ain't got no undies. Well, commando it is.
Right.
And so now, like, you would think, oh, that like that was just one time. No, I don't bring underwear ever anymore.
It's like,
just
this
be
is too
letting him
much
go home.
back.
I just be like, yes. And my beautiful underwear is like this big, but I don't care. That's too much to put in this little bag. Okay. So from here on out, he just has no underwear on.
Hey,
leaving swim class.
YOLO.
I'm sorry, Mav. I love you.
I'm with you, Mav.
I mean, don't men like to let their balls breathe? That's what I thought. He's
I was going
boy.
to say it's less restraint.
See? Like,
Right.
There you go.
All right. There you go. Ain't no shame. You have any ain't no
Hilarious.
shame moments?
I mean, my daughter loves to be outside. So, because she's in that phase where she just runs and grabs everything. She's a dirt baby. And a lot of people look at you like we've been on park dates and she's just like chowing down. And I'm like, oh, she's fine. It's proteins. And they're like,
Dirt.
and I think as like a new mom, like, this is my first one. I'm already there. It's just like, oh, okay. But I feel like I was just like, as soon as she came out, I was like, it is what it is.
I was gonna say that's like a second child.
Right. I feel like a lot of
That's
second,
more like-
a lot of second and third mom behavior I'm doing on my first.
That's
good.
that's good because I feel like
Less stress.
That's what how you know what kind of parent you really are.
Yeah.
And you're already doing it.
Yeah.
So you already know.
Yeah. I think with like 6 months when she was first born, I was trying to be like that extra'd out, like, oh, I'm on top of everything, mom.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, no.
Too much
You're
energy.
alive. I'm keeping you alive. You fed. And you're
That is
happy.
good.
Yeah.
That's how we should be. We should
Yeah.
Right.
'Cause I feel like I still be like, ah.
Right.
The dirt.
Oh, I can't do that.
I do let them. No, I'm not gonna even say that because I'm gonna save that. Ain't no shame.
Save it for another episode, girl. We need that. So let's talk about you, Karla. I know mental health has become like more of a mainstream topic, I would say, in the last few years.
Mhm.
I feel like at least I don't remember talking about mental health like this growing up.
Right.
Like I
No,
feel like it's
definitely
more
not.
something
Yeah.
that we're empowered to talk about now. Especially in motherhood circles. What do you think, let's talk about how you found out about being bipolar and then
Mhm.
also being able to talk about it.
Sure. So I'm 30 now, and I want to say that
baby.
I am. I thank you. I'm holding on
Yes.
to that. I really love being in the 30 club now, though.
Hey,
I just
30s.
turned 30 like last week.
Okay.
So
All right, girl.
it's new,
Real
new.
baby.
Okay, your
Right.
knees gonna give out soon. So just
It's already started.
see, as soon as you hit 30, your metabolism completely shuts off and your knees give out.
Right. So I got diagnosed when I was 24. A couple of months actually before I met my husband now.
Okay.
And I didn't really understand what it was. I kind of grew up in an environment where therapy was taboo.
Right.
And, it was just like Jesus handles it and we're going to pray it out. It's a demon. The church I was going to actually said bipolar disorder didn't exist. So I thought they were, confused
Right.
because I'm aware that something's wrong. And I was always raised, from media and just like the fact that we don't talk about it, that it was something that it's like more extreme.
Mhm.
And I wasn't really exhibiting what I thought it could be.
Right.
So when I got diagnosed, I was a little shocked and I was kind of in denial maybe for a couple of years because I was like, I'm fine. Like
Yeah.
I'm, this whole time I've been undiagnosed and I haven't taken anything and I'll be okay. But then it just seemed to progress once I knew what was going on. And so that's what I think really triggered me to kind of share more about it in the last years at becoming a mom, because when I got diagnosed, I wasn't sure if I should become a mother. Because it's really commonly seen, in movies, you're depicted as like crazy and, unable to take care of yourself. How are you going to take care of another child? And so when that happened, I will say my husband, he's basically like my husband, life coach, therapist. He's been very supportive since I told him, because we were, like I said, we were dating. And I think that's what really inspired me to just really like say, okay, this is nothing to be ashamed of because I didn't ask for this.
Yeah.
But when I told him while we were dating, he was extremely supportive. And I'm like, oh, you're the
shout out,
one one.
husband.
Yeah.
Right. That's how you
Because
know.
he didn't like, that's the time for you to run away,
Yep.
save yourself, go find somebody that doesn't have this
Yeah.
problem so you can have kids. And he's like, no, I'm fine.
Aw,
So
that's
when
good.
that, we were both kind of researching together at that point because like you mentioned, it wasn't really talked about for either of us. He's an 80s baby. So he was like, that's something that was never really addressed. And it's
Yeah.
kind of like, you don't talk about it. As long as you don't talk about it, it's not real.
Can you explain to us what bipolar is?
Of course.
And like what transpired to get you,
Sure.
to get tested and
Mhm.
that whole process?
So from what I know, I have bipolar 2 disorder.
Okay.
There's 4 different kinds. There's one that's unnamed, bipolar 1, bipolar 2, and then one that starts with like a C. It's like cyclomythia or something. I can't really pronounce it. But I've had issues emotionally since I was a child. And what I mean by that is like I've always felt extra sad about things, just like really depressed, and like I couldn't really get into the rhythm of things for a while, as early as 9 as I can remember. And I struggled with that all the way through college. And when I got to college, I noticed that it was a little bit more exacerbated than normal. Like I couldn't like find joy in anything. And I'm like, this isn't just like finals stress. It has to be something else. So I started seeing a therapist on my own. And at first I was diagnosed with an anxiety disorder. And then it got to, you have clinical depression. And so I finally saw someone that was like, you've been seeing people for years now and nothing's helped. You've tried all these medications. I lost weight, gained weight, lost hair, grew hair. I was like, this is a lot for me and I need to know what's wrong. And so they mentioned to me that I could be potentially bipolar 3 months before I was actually diagnosed. Because I was like, I don't know about that one. Like, what does that mean? Because I thought it was like, you're violent, you're throwing things, you're breaking TVs. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. So when she said with bipolar 2 is when you kind of have like these episodes, as you can call it, where you switch from like different bouts of mania, and you can either be extremely high in your mania, like you're great, ready to start all these projects, you're excited, and then you can really, like, at the drop of a hat, snap into a really sad bout of depression or irritability. I've had both. In college, I had a struggle with like verbalizing what I wanted, and I became angry, and it would scare people. Like, they would be like, what's happening right now? Like, you were just fine a second ago. And I really didn't know. And I was really unaware. And that's what brought me into seeing someone, because the fact that someone else could tell me, hey, I've noticed that you seem a little off, was like when more than one person was saying it. And then my boyfriend, my husband now, was saying it. I was like, okay, something's going on. I'm freaking people out. I'm scaring myself. Like, this isn't me. And in my thought process, I couldn't really focus. I had to take a break from school for a little bit because it was hard to like really keep up with working and doing classes when this was happening, because it's like consistent. And at the time, again, I wasn't taking anything like any medications, because there are medications you can take to help you with these cycles, but that takes time, and I wasn't patient enough to get on it. So when that whole bout happened, I finally, I had to be honest with my therapist, because I was embarrassed, and I told her, hey, I'm embarrassed. I went to a friend's like wedding bonfire. She was getting married before she moved off to Texas, and I like freaked out on her at the beach.
Like how?
Like, I just, out of nowhere, she said, I'll be right back. And I thought she said I was leaving. And I just like snapped on her and started like throwing sand and like just doing stuff like I would never normally do.
Yeah.
And she had to like grab me. My friend like sat me down and was like, this isn't the first time that you've kind of like tapered into this mood, and I think something else is going on, because I know you and this isn't you. And that's what I really appreciate, having someone say, like, I can love you, but like, I'm going to have to put a boundary up until you really figure out what's going on. And when that, like, of course you kind of feel isolated, but people were like genuinely just afraid of me. I wasn't like hitting anyone or violent, but just, like when you're
why'd you switch?
Why are you snapping? What just happened? Are you okay? Like, I thought everything was fine. And so when I tell my therapist that, she was like, you're literally describing what I mentioned to you 3 months ago, bipolar 2. And it's not as extreme, if you want to put air quotes on that, as bipolar 1. But with bipolar 2, it can last so long that sometimes you just don't know when it's going to end. And that's why a lot of people that have bipolar 2, unfortunately, end up taking their lives, because they can't get through that really hard stage of mania that just has you like very depressed.
Wait, so is that what that, like, when you're going through stuff like that, you're throwing it, that's like an episode of mania?
Yes, hypomania.
How, like, when you're going through that, is it like a blackout? Like, you don't remember? Or do you like see yourself and you be like, this is justified, I'm throwing this in?
No. So for me, I didn't realize it was happening until it was over.
After?
Like,
so it's like a whole, like, I felt like I blacked and then
out.
next thing you know, I'm like, hey guys, and they're like,
literally, that's what would happen to me. Like, my husband would have to tell me what I would say or what I would do.
Really?
I would end up online writing stuff, didn't even remember writing it. It was really, really, really bad. Like, to this day, like, some people don't talk to me based on stuff that happened that I have no recollection of, but I'm not gonna like say it didn't happen because I don't remember. And it's just, that's a part of the disorder.
Wow.
That you can, it's not all the time, but it depends on like what you have going on. If you're in high stress environments, or if you have a really hard time in life right now, it makes it harder for you to remember when you're in those manic states, what's going on. And then I would have moments even with my husband when we were dating, and I'd be like thinking, I'm not wrong. Like, this is right. I would bite his head off, and he would be like, are you done? And I'm like, no, this is right. Like, I'm fine. Everything's great. You're wrong. And then you come back and you go over it and you realize, okay, I might have had a little steam on that, like maybe it wasn't
is that
you.
part of being bipolar? Or is
that sound like me? Right?
I was like,
so being bipolar, I can say even now, I still go through any interactions I have, like with my husband, with my friends. And I know that it's not always me, but I know that because I'm bipolar, I might have a little edge on it, and I have to be mindful of that. But so it's like, it's hard because a lot of people will try to say, well, you're bipolar, you're just imagining it. And I'm like, no, you're gaslighting me. me. You're actually the one that has the issue. But at the same time, I'm like, I have to be more aware of like, is this the disorder making me feel like this? Is this the, my bipolarity putting an emphasis on how I'm feeling? Or am I justified really in how I'm feeling right now? And I go, that's just something I may have to deal with forever.
Thank you for sharing that. I feel like you can say one thing, but like actually going through the emotions, and past experience, because it's hard to relive some.
It is,
especially when you hurt other people.
It's very hard.
Thank you for going through that with us
and explaining that. Because I know I had one of my friends. I think she had schizophrenia and she's bipolar, and I never knew what that was. And she's Black, and I was just like, girl, you fine. Like, it's fine. Just, whatever. Right. And then one time we were on a work trip and it was like a retreat. And she was like, she pulled me to the side. She was like, Megan, I feel like an episode's coming on. And so I have like no understanding of mental health at all at this point. I think I was like 20 something and like early 20s. And she was just like, she's like, I always tend to feel it. Like I feel it's about to take over. So she's like, I'm just telling you because I don't, want to share it with our colleagues.
Right.
And so you may just have to take me to like my hotel room and just kind of make sure I stay there. And so I was like, okay, I don't know what this is, but all right, girl, I got you. So I noticed as we were all coming back from like dinner, we're all like, everybody's heading to their room. She starts getting a little like looking around like something's going on. And I was like, okay, I think this is what she was talking about. Yeah. So I scoot her off to the room, close the door. She starts saying 50 million words a minute, like just going through like I was sitting here like, it's like switched. She just started spewing everything, like what she was thinking. Like, you know how you have a million thoughts in your head? Right. She was just saying them all at the same time, jumbling them, walking around the room, trying to push stuff. Okay. Like it was like, so I'm sitting there just like, what am I, girl, let's find, like, what do I do? Do I sit here? So I just sat there and watched her. And I actually prayed for understanding because I was like, this clearly, like, this is something that has plagued her for her life. And here I am, like, I don't know much about mental health and being, in the Black community. Right. It's like you said, you just pray it away. Yeah. But I was like, no, Lord, give me understanding because clearly this is something that has plagued her whole life. Right. And, she's asked me for help. So show me what to do to help her in this moment. And honestly, like what I felt in my spirit was like, just sit. Yeah. Just sit. She tried to leave a couple times like, oh, I'm gonna sit in front of the door. Because you asked me to make sure that your colleagues saw you in this state. Right. So I sat in front of the door, so it would let her leave. And then I think it took about 15 minutes or so. And then she kind of just like sat there and she was like, hey,
came
girl.
Back.
And I was just like, what do you remember about the last 15 minutes? Right. And she was just like, nothing I remember. I was like, what's the last thing you remember? And she was like, we were like walking back from dinner and then, and I was like, wow, you really don't remember the last 15 minutes? She was like, no, and so I was like, what, like that, how like crazy is it to have that in your life to where you don't remember that? And so I was like, that really touched my heart to be like, okay, Megan, mental health is a real thing. Right. Growing up in Black community, it's like, whatever, I can't do that anymore. I can't say that. I can't feel that way because like, think about what if I had moments in my life I don't remember. Right. And it happened, like, I wasn't in control of it. Like, that's really harsh. Yeah. And, she told me that, because of that, there was times that she would try to, like, slit her wrists and she wouldn't remember. She would come back to and her wrists were slit. And I was like, that is scary. So, it is. Like, that's why I was like, talking about these things, I think, make it so much easier. Yeah. About,
I think you guys both brought up the Black community and obviously the stigma behind mental health. And I think we're getting better. Yeah. I think we're definitely getting better. Yeah. But what has the support been like for you within the Black community after sharing?
So honestly, I haven't had much support. Honestly, I had to disconnect from my family and my cousins and everything because they're not understanding like you were with your friend. And so I understand both sides. One time, at one side, it's like, it's terrifying for the person who doesn't understand what's going on. Yeah. And it could scare you to the point where you don't even want to be bothered with it. And that's kind of what I have dealt with growing up. But on the other end, it's like you have to understand that this person is going through something that they don't even realize or may not realize is happening. And it's nothing that they're trying to do on purpose. And so I've dealt with just a lot of people in our own community that have taken it extra personal, which I can understand, because I've been the friend before I was diagnosed and before my symptoms were progressed, that I had a friend who had a really bad anxiety disorder, and we were at the movies one time and the movie literally just started. And she's like, I need to go outside. And I was like, for what? And she's like, I'm having a moment and I need to like calm down. And so I was able to be supportive for her then. And I'm like, wow, now that I'm dealing with something similar, not exactly the same, I get it. But I share like, you know, what I go through online, because I feel like you shouldn't have to experience it to care. You should care, you know, whether it comes across your path or not. And unfortunately, you know, and within our community, we've gotten better. Like you said, we've gotten so much better. We're so much more, but we do have a long way to go.
Yeah.
We
what
really
is
do.
Your support system? Right
now, it's honestly just my husband. I've reached out I've joined like mommy groups now that I'm a mom. I waited a year after the pandemic because that isolation was really hard. And being pregnant and bipolar was very hard because I couldn't take my regular dosage of medication. And in the midst of that, I lost my friends because I had so many episodes where they're like, you're just lashing out because you're pregnant. And it's like, no, you know, you're trying to get them to understand, while at the same time, you know, keep yourself together and grow a human. And so they just dipped out on me. And so now that I share, you know, when I meet someone new, like in the mommy group, I'm like, hey, you know, we should connect on Instagram. And I'm like, that's usually the sign. If they see my page or my bio, it says bipolar 2 in there. And they're just like, oh, I've had people ask me about it. I've had people be like, I can't deal with this. I'm sorry. But now I've gained some really awesome mom friends that are very supportive and like ask me how I'm doing. So you know, it's been working out.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really good. I know you mentioned a second ago that, you know, you were considering not being a mom.
Yes.
I know a lot of mental disorders are like or genetic, or they pass down to your kids. What made you change your mind and say, okay, I still want to be a mom?
So, well, my daughter's a birth control baby, but I went through so many losses. We had so many miscarriages in the past that when we finally got pregnant with Aria, I asked my husband, I'm like, okay, so are you sure? Because there is like it's a small % chance, but she can inherit this disorder from me. Or even if we have another child, you know, they could. And he's like, well, it'll be great because she'll have you. And you'll be there to support her and help her understand how to navigate this disorder and all the, you know, highs and lows. Because, you know, my mom actually told me growing up, maybe you shouldn't have kids. Because even before I showed symptoms of my bipolarity, I was depressed. And she just related that as like, oh, you're depressed because I was depressed when my dad died. I'm like, not the same thing, but okay, you know, because she felt guilty and she she didn't know how to help. And I think that's what I'm understanding, you know, from back then. They didn't have the tools, you know, and if you don't have the tools, you can't really assist or fix anything. And if you're not willing to learn how to like, you know, get a grip on this, then you're just going to continue the cycle. And so that's what made me say I can be a mom, because I'm willing to break that cycle. And if she does have, even if she's not, you know, bipolar like me, if she comes up with something similar, I know how to help her. I have the tools.
Yeah. And I think we talk a lot about, you know, postpartum depression, like mothers after they have a baby go through a ton of different highs and lows. Without the proper support, without the proper knowledge, without the proper tools, like it all plays a part in the things that mothers go through, which is already hard enough. Yeah. So how do you balance, you know, the symptoms that we already deal with as new moms, you know, and then being bipolar, you know, how do you balance that?
So the beginning of it was really hard. I'm not going to front like it wasn't. I had so many episodes back to back. My husband was really my rock because he was still working from home because of the pandemic. And now he's like a couple days home, but he would take off and he would check in and ask me how you're doing sometimes. And I really struggled at the beginning with my daughter to bond because all my symptoms came up. And I was like, this is like a double whammy. And I'm like, this is like a bad joke. You know, I had postpartum anxiety, postpartum depression, and my bipolarity came up and I wasn't on anything. And I still couldn't take anything even after having her because I was breastfeeding. So I Now I've worked, though, I will say it didn't happen overnight, but in the last couple of years, even before I got pregnant with my daughter, I started really working on finding the signs of when I'm having an episode and working on things that can help me come down from one, because I'm not a kid, and like, my husband's not going to always be around, and my friends aren't going to always be around. I got to take care of me, as, hard as it can feel. So I started coming up with ways with my therapist and just reading through mindfulness and meditation and yoga on how to help myself come down when it's happening. And sometimes it takes longer than usual, but now I'm really good at noticing when my mood shifts. I can notice my own language or my own gestures, or like I can feel like this. It's weird to describe, but like an urge in my hands where I notice my hands are shifting, and even my husband will see it and be like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Oh no, I'm fine." And I'll go like this, and it just helps me center, like, just to remind myself that I'm safe where I am. I'm okay. Nothing's wrong. It's my mood elevating, and this is going to pass. And so I really have to go through that a lot because, as you guys know, having a baby, transition to a toddler, it's hard.
It's very
and
hard.
they have all of that in one, all the mood swings and everything, because this world is still new for them. And so I just wanted to really be the best mom that I can in my bipolarity for her, and at the same time take care of myself. So I'm like, okay, as long as I know that I can follow these steps, and sometimes these steps might go out of order in order to help me get down to where I need to be, I'm going to keep doing it. And I did that religiously for like 2 years before I even got pregnant. So after having her, I did struggle for about 6 months of just really like trying to get back into that routine, but I had to retrain myself and just remind myself that these work. You just have to keep doing it.
And that's all of us.
Right.
Like that's literally all of us, not just you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that, that's important because, like I remember those first few months, my goodness, I just was all over the place. We both were like,
it's hard when you're not sleeping.
Postpartum depression. What's wrong with us? Like, we just, and so to add that extra layer on top of it, I'm sure. So I commend you for getting it together, girl, because you're doing it and you're doing it well. What's one thing you wish people knew about being bipolar?
It is not like you see on social media. It's
not like the TV shows.
It's not like the TV shows where you think you're going to be able to identify it. I meet people all the time that are like, I would have had no idea if I hadn't seen your Instagram or, because I seem normal. I'm high functioning, as my therapist likes to say, but that took years to get to, and I wish people understood just the amount of dedication and work it takes to really get a hold of this disorder that I'll never be cured from, because unfortunately we don't have one. It's just like, put some respect on that. Like it's really hard. And on top of being a mom and a wife and trying to do everything else that you have going on for your career, it's hard. And I just like, sometimes people I think try to minimize that. Like, well, we all go through that. Like, no one's trying to trauma compare here or try to make it seem like, I'm more sad than you. That's not what I'm saying. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's like, just understand that this is a really heavy load. But I got it. It's possible. But like not to just, dumb it down, because it's hard.
That's hard. Yeah. And I just remember like, I never really understood what depression was or how, because I used to be like, stop being sad, girl, go outside, sunshine, smile. You got a great life. Look at the positive side of things. and then
you're saying that too.
I know when I like
to your kids.
Right. And then like, I remember like having my son and being, everything was such a task. I couldn't return text messages. I could not call. Like I was like, oh my god,
still feel like that. I'm just like sitting here like, this thing passed.
Right. Yes.
It just felt like a task to call someone back when it was just somebody just go like this. Hey, it just seemed like it took up too much mental space.
Right.
And that's when I started going, when people talk about depression and you see the commercials for like whatever medicine for this, and they're like sad face, and
I can't
was
stand
like,
those commercials.
I can't either.
The one you guys see,
it's so unreal.
The kids in the room painting or something. The mom's there just like
gazing off
like
into the sun.
Face right on her stick, and she said, and I just was like, I'm getting a better understanding. Meaning, like this is a heavy load that I feel like I don't feel like myself. I feel very like why is it so hard for me to talk to people?
Yeah.
And I'm not even trying to divulge the world of information. It's just literally, or somebody just asked me something really quick on text message and I'm looking at the text like, I can't return it.
Girl, I be feeling like that too. I mean, it comes and it goes.
Yeah.
Especially when you sit with the kids and their moods. And I was explaining to my husband, he's like, you need to be more stern with them. And I was just like, when they act up, I'm processing so much of like you probably do this, like what not to do.
Yes.
Right? Like I know what I saw or what has happened in my life or whatever. And I'm literally sitting there like processing. I can't say that. I can't do this.
Right.
I can't. And he's looking at me like, are you going to say something to them?
Yeah.
And I'm literally like, okay, girls, let's go upstairs. Like, because I'm literally telling myself not to do that. And then from that, it takes so much energy. And I'm like, God damn. Like,
if I can add to that, because I was just thinking about that this week, because my husband and I were trying to be the gentle, conscious, mindful parents. We follow that, I follow like 80 Instagram pages of that. And when my daughter has her little moments, or if she's extra, I won't say clean. I use the word connected to me. Good one. Yeah, I'm part of it, I'm like, okay, because I can get triggered easily. And I sometimes like my husband will just watch me and be like, are you okay? Because I'm not saying anything to her when she's having a moment, because I'm trying to process it and I'm going through like, I know what was said to me as a child. I know what I didn't like. And so I know that right now she's trying to tell me something and she just can't verbalize it. But it's hard to get there because sometimes I'm just like, oh my God, please stop.
Just stop crying.
It just feels so heavy.
With them.
Yeah. Oh, I have plenty of moments.
And I'm going to cry with you then. Okay? I'm going to sit here and cry with you because I'm sad too. I'm sad I got to be here right now with you.
Exactly.
Okay?
Yeah.
And it really sucks to feel that way sometimes, but it's just what it is.
But it's, I mean, that's honest though. I think that's because it doesn't mean you don't love your kids.
No, it doesn't.
You need to get away. You're a human being. You need a break. Right?
And that needs to be advertised more.
Yeah.
I wish that was in the mama handbook before I got pregnant.
I don't want to be with
like
you all
that's the reality.
Right.
No, and you're still a great mom.
Exactly.
You're still a great mom, even when you need a break.
Even though I visualized putting you on that curb a couple of times. Okay. It's like with that little knapsack, the little
right.
No. What is it?
With the stick,
bag on the end of it.
Right.
I just be visualizing my son sitting there and be like, let me go get your little knapsack with the stick on it.
Yeah.
Child.
It feels like that sometimes.
It does.
It really does.
But that doesn't mean you don't love your kids. It's just you were a human before that. You had your own life, so it's like sometimes you need to remember that, like, okay, if you're feeling this way, let's go through the reasons why you're feeling this way.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it is, you're just overwhelmed, you're overworked, you've just been in mommy mode and you haven't been fulfilling the other parts of yourself. I think that's important.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw that you were an exclusive pumper. I'm not. I wasn't. Wasn't into it.
Yeah. Yeah. That was hard.
How's that been?
So I stopped eventually when my daughter turned almost 10 months and just gave her the freezer milk until she turned 1 because I was exhausted.
Yeah.
And so I didn't plan on staying at home as long as I have. I still didn't. I'm like, wow, I'm still at home.
You're doing a lot. You did all the check boxes.
And I wanted to give up because she wouldn't latch in the beginning really well. So I was like, okay, how can I give you this milk? Because it needs to come out. And so I started, one of the lactation consultants at my hospital was like, you should just maybe try pumping until she can latch. And she did eventually latch, but she preferred the bottle. But that was really, 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 is this on? Really hard. Okay. Because every 3 hours, sometimes every 2, I would have to pump. And then I became oversupply because the stimulation, it was like, oh, more milk's coming. And I had mastitis a couple times. Oh, wow. And I was like,
I did.
That is painful.
It
is the worst thing ever.
I was hospitalized. I almost died from my y'all. Okay, I told that story before because they gave me some antibiotics I didn't know I was allergic to.
Oh no!
And so here I am. I was like, I'm about to die trying to breastfeed this child.
Yeah,
wait till I tell
I remember that.
Oh yeah, she's gonna know all of that. Right. She's getting all these stories because that was hard. Yeah, I literally
and I always said especially for this baby, I can't do the exclusive pumping again. So I was like, we're gonna have to figure out how to make you latch. Okay.
Yeah.
Because if I have to go through that again, because you think about it, like every 2 to 3 hours, you have to pump again. And that's like a 20, sometimes 30 minute, you're just sitting there, you're not moving. If you have the I had the hospital, I had to have the hospital grade.
I have that one too. It's
Yeah.
big and crunchy.
It's a big old
and
bulky.
out of the way. It's real.
I might still have that in my closet, actually. I don't even think I gave that
Yeah,
back.
you better check because they probably charging you. You ain't supposed to keep it that long.
Right?
My baby's like almost 2.
Right. They're even charging you the insurance all the time.
I need to check that out.
But seriously though, it was just like so isolating because then you pump. So that takes 30 minutes and you got to do a bottle, you clean the bottles. And next thing you know, you're back at it.
I literally felt like that.
Go eat some solid foods. I'm tired.
That's
I'm tired just thinking about this. I can't do it.
And then you can't hold your baby because you're attached to this stuff. It's hard to hold your baby. So it's like you always have to have somebody. And there were times where I remember my fiance had to leave and go to work in a different state. So it was just me. And I would just be sitting there and Mav would be crying and I'd be like,
sorry.
I don't know what I got you. Here, let me try to hold this bottle in your mouth. And it just
don't let them be teething while you're trying to pump. And then all they want is you. And it's like one side you got kept hooked up to the pump and then baby over here.
The teeth.
I was like,
God.
Yeah.
So, but I will say I'm going to have to grit through it this time and the reason I started pumping was because it was day 2. We were still in the hospital. I hadn't left the hospital yet. My son was born and I was already down to the white meat on my nipples.
Oh no, absolutely
it was
not.
that bad. So I was like, never, no.
Yeah.
We ain't going back to this.
That's what happened to me in the first week and it was over. I was like, good night.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to
Did you swallow that? No thanks.
Girl, it's fine. You ate skin. We all ate skin. Okay. But I really was just like, I'm going to have to grit through it this time because I have to constantly remind myself, Megan, remember the isolation that happened, when you were pumping, that was the worst. And I felt like I couldn't, my mom and my baby were bonding. I was just sitting there just pumping here I go
it's
again.
Really hard.
For the 6th time today, for the 8th time today, here I am just sitting here in my lonesome pumping.
Oh, you better take this bottle.
So I think now I'm going to try. I'm going to try actual latching and doing that, going... How long did it take for your daughter to finally latch?
She literally took 4 months. 4. I took her and I thought she had a lip tie or something. No, she just didn't want to latch.
Ooh,
and then she was used to the bottle. So we had to give her the bottle because she wouldn't latch at really early. Yeah. So she was used to that. But then it was she switched and she's like, I know the milk's in there. I guess she could sense it. So she wanted to latch. And I'm like, okay, now you're getting teeth and I can't do this. So here's a bottle again. And now she's used
Take
to it.
some sweet potatoes and some bananas.
Right. And I think also I was just in my head a lot. When you read online and you think, oh, this needs to be done. Your child's being fed.
They're fine.
That is the best
Absolutely
thing.
Fine.
Your mental health should come before.
Most important. Okay, so before we get out of here, is there any upcoming projects or anything that you have coming up that we should check out?
So just if you follow me on Instagram at Karla Said Hello, you'll see any link in my bio. I do contracted work for different magazines talking about bipolar disorder, from how it is when I'm managing it on my own to mothering with it. So usually if you see that, if you just follow me, you'll see different things coming up in the next couple of months.
Yeah, then you have, by the way, y'all to check it out. It's on, what is it, Women's Health Magazine?
Women's Health Magazine.
Great article.
Yeah, I have a couple of new articles coming out, but I am contracted with them. So you'll see me often.
Yeah.
She's contracted.
I'm contracted.
Well, we are here at our last segment called I'm Fine. It's our segment where we like to leave you with a little inspiration. Usually, we ask other moms if we're fine and we lie and say we are, but we're not.
Right.
I'm fine. So today I have what mental health needs is more sunlight and more unashamed conversation. And that is from Glenn Close.
Which is what we're doing.
What mental health needs?
Yes. A little bit more sunlight and a little bit more conversation.
Wait, what does that mean? Like vitamin D?
Right?
Just some sunshine. Well, how I take it is
out in nature,
shedding a little light.
Yeah.
Shedding
transparency.
A little sunshine. I mean, what is sun? When I go out into the sun, me and my daughter go out in the sun. And Halo always says, Mommy, the sun makes me happy. So true. We sit outside and we just lay in the sun. And she said that makes her happy.
Right.
So when I saw that, it was just a little bit more happiness, sunshine, light, spread
some light on it. Yeah.
You know, what we're doing today. So
Right.
that was
That's
a little
important.
fitting, you know.
Yes, I just wanted to say vitamin D, girl. That's all. I was just yanking your chain. Thank you guys for watching another episode of Mommy Needs a Break. We do this every week where you have some really great mommy and daddy guests on this show. If there's anybody that you'd like for us to interview, put it in the comments below. I'm Megan Thomas at Meg Scoop everywhere. And where can we find you, Karla?
At Karla Said Hello on IG.
C or K?
K. Thank you for asking. That's important.
You know, I be thinking these.
Right? We here.
Very important. Very important. Thank you guys.
I'm Marisa Johnson, and she is Marisa J. Make sure to follow Mommy Needs a Break on all platforms at MNEB Podcast. And we will see you next week.
Bye.